To the 2024 live election coverage. I'm Mara St. Marie.
And I'm Cora Haste. Tonight, we will discuss the issues that students care about and see how that is impacting their vote. And stay tuned for various stories about local elections.
We also have multiple experts in the studio. As the night continues, we'll have live updates on preliminary results. Speaking of, let's check on our reporters out in the field. Thank you, Swanik, for joining us. Thank you, Swanik. Reporter Swanik is at the University Center for the Campus Watch Party. Swanik, when did this event start?
Hi, this event started at around 6 p.m. We're watching the ABC News live cast right now about the projections of the election.
On Wednesdays and Fridays,
and about
we
how
will
many
be
people are there right now?
Election reflection.
I'd say probably about 50 or 60 people are here. We've had people progressively coming in since about 6. It's been really great to see everybody show up.
And are we seeing like both sides of the political spectrum showing up?
Definitely. I've seen people in Trump here. I've seen people in Kamala here. I've seen people who look nonpartisan. It's great to have a very evenly dispersed group of people here.
And how is the atmosphere right now?
It's a little tense, but we're pretty good. We've had a lot of trivia going on. It's been very fun. They've given out some $50 gift cards. Wow. They have free cake and free hot chocolate. So I'd say we're doing pretty good out here.
That's awesome. What are the gift cards for?
There are some gift cards for Walmart, but most of the gift cards they're giving out are $50 Visa gift cards for winning the trivia.
That's awesome. And have we seen a lot of the same kinds of winners, or has it been a different winner each round?
It's been a different winner each round. Each round of trivia is a different topic. We've had one round of trivia on pop culture, one on American history, and the next round of trivia at 8 p.m. will be on famous quotes.
Oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. Are there any other events going on there right now?
There are not any events going on right here, but the Student Democracy Coalition, who is hosting this party, is also hosting an election beach dress event at the Blue Ridge Conference Center.
Well, thank you so much, Swanik.
Thank you.
So, we have Swanik at the University Center, and we have others covering surrounding counties. Stuart, I understand that you're at the Jackson County Board of Elections. Stuart, what have you seen out there?
Hey, Cora. Well, it's a pretty routine night out here. Nothing really out of the ordinary going on. But about just 30 seconds or a minute ago, they shut the doors and waiting for those votes to get counted. And here pretty soon we'll have the absentee and the early voting numbers. But until then, we're just waiting to see.
And were there any folks in line when they shut those doors?
No, there weren't. They actually finished up before.
Sweet, awesome. And have there been lines out there at all today, or what's it been looking like?
Well, you know, Cora, I just got here at about 7 o'clock, so I can't speak for earlier in the day, but it seemed pretty normal so far.
Awesome. And what about the atmosphere, just the general air about the place? Were the poll workers and the voters feeling anxious, excited? How's it feeling?
I think it feels pretty routine. We're all doing good. They're in front of me. They're picking up all the polling places, polling signs, excuse me, and all the people around here campaigning. They've picked up and gone. So just in that time of counting, and we're gonna see how it goes.
All right, we'll be hearing more from you later. Thank you, Stuart.
In Haywood County, we have reporter Mackenzie Atkinson. Mackenzie, what have you seen out in Haywood today?
Hi, Mara. It's been interesting to say the least. The Haywood Board of Elections Center is not a polling location, but a lot of voters have shown up here to try and cast their ballots, but have been directed to their appropriate precincts throughout the day.
And how is the general atmosphere for the people that you've seen come and go today?
A lot of people are very excited about voting today. A lot of them are like, this is my civic duty. I need to do this. I talked to a few people at different precincts and they were like, this is my duty. Like, I'm so excited to do this. And it's a unprecedented time and it's a really intense election, and they are very, very excited to see how this election turns out.
Yeah, I think we all definitely are. I know Haywood County has been hit pretty hard by Hurricane Helene. Have you seen that affect any attitudes towards people that are voting today?
I don't think it's affected attitudes per se. It has affected. I did talk to Board of Elections director out here, Mr. Hammond, and we were able to talk about like how they were going to be bringing the results in from different precincts and how dangerous it could be because some of the roads are closed. But other than that, the hurricane has not impacted attitudes towards voting today.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
That's really interesting to hear from Mackenzie about the hurricane's effects on voting. So I know that we've had still record levels. What do you know about how the hurricane impacted early voting in Haywood County?
Well, I know that it's led to a lot more people voting earlier than on actual election day. And I think it's important to address that Mackenzie said that poll workers are potentially facing dangerous situations by trying to get different ballots back to the Board of Elections office. So I think that we really have to acknowledge how awesome those people are right now in this time.
Yeah. And reporter Cody Cressman is in Macon County. How's it been out there, Cody?
It's been, it's been a little bit slow. We had a very busy early voting, so about 60% of our eligible voters have already voted. But I was talking to poll workers today, and they said it's been steady. They still had a steady line of people coming through.
Yeah, so when they closed those doors out there in Macon County, was anyone waiting to get in there?
No, I was just over at the poll for East Franklin, the town hall, and there wasn't really anyone there at the time. But, throughout the day, they said they've had at least one person there voting at all times.
And can you kind of describe what the atmosphere with those voters is like? How are they feeling?
You know, I think a lot of the enthusiasm was put into early voting. We're all pretty happy about how many people showed up for that. It's just sort of the last few people coming in today.
All right. Thank you so much, Cody.
And in Swain County, we have Taylor Buckland. Taylor, how is it out there in Swain right now?
It's good. It's a little slow here, been a little slow. The sheriff's office just showed up. I'm not sure what that's about, but yeah, I've talked to the people working at the Board of Elections, and they say that everything has been very smooth sailing today.
Well, that's good to hear everything's going well. How's the general atmosphere been out there?
It's good. I asked them how they were feeling and what's been going on, and they all look very comfortable and confident in this election going smoothly in this county.
Great. Well, that's awesome to hear. Have you seen a lot of people turning out, or has it been smaller numbers?
It's definitely been smaller numbers these past few hours. They had over 5,000 people vote early, and just almost 1,500 as of 4 p.m. But it looks like it's slowing down as everybody's finishing getting their votes in.
That's a lot of early voting. Thank you so much, Taylor.
You're welcome.
As a reminder, we are also simulcasting on 95.3 WCU Dillsboro. In September, Hurricane Helene impacted 25 counties in western North Carolina, affecting the election process and voters alike. Of the 4 counties we are covering tonight, Haywood County was hit the hardest. Several polling places were moved to different locations despite the damage. Over 60% of registered voters have already voted early. Reporters Shondell Granison Jr., Parker Jacobs, and Bernard Pelote III.
With hurricane season coming to an end, the devastation in the western North Carolina area has been very hard on the communities. It has not been any help knowing that the election season is right around the corner. We caught up with Robert Inman with the Board of Elections. This is what he had to say about the effects.
My name's Robert Inman. I'm Director of Elections for Haywood County, North Carolina. I do have 2 polling places that are no longer at the address or the facility that they have been in previous elections. That right there was one of my polling places that we're going to be talking about. There's now a National Guard tent right here.
Okay.
So I didn't have to change the address, didn't have to move anybody. They're just going to not go in the fire department. They're going to go in this temporary tent that the National Guard came and provided.
Retired teacher Mary Curry is going to give her thoughts on the voter turnouts.
Early voting and voter turnout has been historically high. So I would say in this county, in Haywood County, Hurricane Helene fallout has not affected the turnout at all. People seem absolutely determined to vote. I think we lost 6 lives.
Robert Inman had this to say about the voter turnout as well.
I'm going to say that voter registration numbers have remained steady throughout the event. As far as voter turnout, we're actually experiencing record turnout. I'm not going to attribute that to anything to do with weather events, but it's just the reality on the ground is that I voted more people early in person in Haywood County in 2024 than we did in previous elections.
The General Assembly gave the State Board of Elections $5 million to disperse to the Board of Elections in counties hit by the hurricane. Haywood County is one of those recipients. Now we are going to take it over to Ryan Creel, who is going to be talking a little bit about early voting.
I'm here with Ryan Creel, and we are going to be talking about how many voters are turning up to this election to vote early.
First, thank you for having me. Appreciate being on
Of
here.
course.
For the amount of voters turning out, so right here on our polling place at the University Center on campus, we had 2,900 people show out, which is a record-breaking number. Ever since we started keeping numbers on that tab since about 2016, we haven't seen a number that high. And if we're talking about Jackson County as a whole, that number is going to be 17,500, which is, again, like another really good number. The state average for voter turnout early is about 56%, and Jackson County is at about 55%. So it's a little bit below, but considering everything that we've been through, it's still really good. Even other counties, like we mentioned, Haywood's up at 60%. So it's really good to see the mountains motivated to make their voices heard.
Yes, definitely. Like you said, especially due to Hurricane Helene. What about just for voter turnout in general compared to last election?
Yeah, across the state, it's actually even crazier because we had a 15% increase across the state. So in 2020, we had 3.6 million people show out. Yeah, still a very large number that was even bigger than 2016. But now in 2024, we have about 4.2 million, which is just like insane to see a number grow that high on a scale in the millions.
Yes, I agree. So where in the Western Carolina area can voters still vote today?
So specifically in Colowee, if you're trying to get your vote still in, you can go to the Colowee Rec Center. That's going to be open. And if you were looking to come here and get your vote in early, somewhere you can go to is the University Center on the 2nd floor.
Gotcha. Are there any safety concerns at the nearby polling areas?
No, I had the pleasure to talk to the head of the polling center here at the University Center, Matt, and he said nothing. There was nothing to be concerned about, no threats of violence, no weird calls.
That's good
All
to
good
hear.
over here.
Very good. So what would you say to people who are, on the fence about whether or not they think that they should still pull out to vote this year?
Yeah, no, I can understand it's a concern for some people. Seeing the millions upon millions of people voting, we're just one singular person, but change doesn't happen unless we all move together and make sure our voices is heard, especially as North Carolinians, where every election cycle, we're always getting extra coverage. We're always getting numerous presidential campaigns in here because they just want to make sure they can get our vote. Since we're always going back and forth, we are one of the few states that you can truly say no matter what, our votes matter here.
Yes, absolutely. So go turn out and vote. Thank you.
To clarify, voting is now closed. To learn more about early voting, we have journalists Ryan Creel and Bradley Kirpies investigate what the experience has been like for our community.
Election season is in full swing at Western Carolina University, as dozens of Americans cast early ballots. Early voting offers a convenient way to participate without long lines and crowds on Election Day.
At this site, a person waits 2 minutes tops. Generally, there's no line. We've got more poll workers working than voters present. But if you go down to the Board of Elections, you could wait 10, 15 minutes or so. It's really reasonable to vote in Jackson County. We make it so easy with 5 early voting sites.
For many, this election feels particularly important, and casting their ballot early gave them the chance to make their voice heard.
We really know where they both stand. It's a very unique election, probably the only one in our lifetime where both candidates have been in the executive branch.
Voters feel a sense of responsibility for heading to the polls in order to shape the America they want to see.
And it's a way for us to see kind of what America wants, right? Hey, you know, we had this amount of people vote third party. That means we had a lot of people who weren't happy with the main 2 candidates. And so I think what voting should be is like, this is what I want America to look like, right? So.
As unprecedented early voting comes to a close, we await Tuesday night to see the results. Ryan Creel and Bradley Capiz, WeTV.
Early voting is a great way for those who cannot vote on election day to vote in person, making the voting process as easy and as stress-free as possible. Oftentimes they can be overlooked. Reporters Morgan Corson and Swanik spoke with some local volunteers.
You think about voting, you think about bubbling in the candidate who you like the most or the issues you are the most concerned about. Western Carolina University polling place was a very popular spot during early voting. What makes this possible are the poll workers, and they are often forgotten about. Betty Allen has worked the polls since 2020 and talked to us about the challenges she faced while working the polls.
Trying to make sure I follow all the procedures so that no one will think I'm trying to influence a voter one way or the other.
But for her, it is still joyous work.
I especially love working here at the University Center because the Western students, it's very exciting to see them vote. They seem to be very happy to vote, which makes me feel good, and I especially love the first-time voters.
We talked to a first-time poll worker as well. Tristan Weiss is a student at Western, and he talked about some misconceptions about poll workers.
I think that they can be corrupt, I guess, which I don't see. Everyone there seems to be very, like, they don't put in their opinions or anything, and they take it very seriously.
The Jackson County Board of Elections has 115 poll workers this election cycle. In order to work the polls, you must swear an oath, pass a training in law and legal regulations, as well as equipment training. Back to you at the desk.
When voting, be sure to thank your volunteers. They spend their free time making the voting process easier for everyone. They also try to make it special sometimes for people. Cora, did you have a special experience when you were voting?
I did have a special experience at the polls. I cast my first ballot this year. I'm a first-time voter, and the poll workers clapped for me and cheered for me whenever I cast that vote, and it just made the experience really lovely. So be sure to think about those volunteers when you're thinking about voting. Many voters look forward to receiving a sticker after casting their ballot. This election, voters in Jackson County have a chance to snag an exclusive hand-drawn sticker by young artist Wesley Neilheisel.
This summer, students from kindergarten up to 6th grade had an opportunity to put their artistry to the test during a day camp organized by 4-H. Campers spent time learning about voting and then tried their hand at designing their own voting stickers. 6-year-old Wesley shared with us a little bit of the inspiration behind his winning design.
I just decided I would do red, white, and then blue because that's how people say it in order. They say red, white, and blue, so I did red first, then white, and then blue. And then I decided I wanted to write I voted because it's an American sticker.
Wesley said that he wants to be an artist when he grows up, and we certainly think he is off to a good start.
People are going to wear this. How do you feel about that?
I like that.
What will you say if you see people wearing it?
I'm going to say that I drew that sticker.
After talking with Wesley, I was really looking forward to receiving my custom sticker, which I am wearing here today, and I'm sure he was excited to see people wearing these out and about now.
Before Election Day, reporter Mackenzie Atkinson sat down with the Jackson County Board of Elections Director Amanda Allen. Tell us more, Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mara, Amanda Allen is so sweet. She's very down to earth and she is very, very invested in our elections this year.
So tell me more. Did she plan to go into election work after she finished her college career?
So she did not plan on that. She actually wanted to become a journalist, but because of the recession that she uh, graduated in, she decided to go work in HR instead. And she just got the itch for elections around 2018 and has been working as a poll worker ever since.
That's really awesome. And how long has she been doing this now?
So she got the position as director of the Board of Elections just in February. So she is a very new director for the Board of Elections.
Great. Well, let's see more that we can learn about Amanda Allen.
6 months, and this is my third election in 6 months. It's been crazy. So it's really a constant gearing up and fine-tuning of materials, processes, those kinds of things to make sure that we're equipped for what's coming, because you are always counting down to the next one. And what do we need to do better? How do we need to move forward?
As an 8th-generation Jacksonian, she felt a calling to serve the community that helped raise her. She worked in human resources at Southwestern Community College for 10 years. In 2018, she started volunteering as a poll worker. She ended up working her way up to be the partisan Democratic judge for the elections and now serves as the current director. But the director seat can get pretty hot. Just recently, a group of conservatives have called for her resignation over a discrepancy on the ballot.
And so in a process, when we were doing list maintenance that is very routine, we discovered that there was a mistake in the data. We fixed it, and a candidate that is running for office, her jurisdictions changed based on the way that the data was cleaned. We've been in communication with that person, with their party.
The misunderstanding of Allen's position has led to this controversy. Many believe that she has a hand in deciding what goes on the ballot. In reality, she works strictly as administration.
I'm not queen of the world in this office. There are a lot of checks and balances, so we do research, we do those things, we bring things to the board, they choose some actions, we act them out. We aren't willy-nilly changing things. Each county doesn't get to just decide when they're going to do ballots or what their ballots are going to look like. There's a lot of processes.
This has not deterred her. She hopes to make a long career out of this. Reporting from Cullowhee, I'm Mackenzie Atkinson. Back to you in the studio.
Another young director overlooking this election is Adam Burns in Swain County. I had the chance to speak with Burns to learn more about what it takes to run a successful and secure election.
It was daunting at first, I don't think because of my age.
It was only 3 weeks after graduation that Adam Burns became the director of the Board of Elections in Swain County.
But in a field like this, you get experience quickly out of necessity as much as anything.
This election will be Burns' 4th election as director. He graduated from Emory University, where his passion for voting and nonpartisan efforts grew.
Wanted to be involved in making sure people could vote. Wanted to be in politics or government in some form, but partisan politics doesn't really appeal to me. And I thought the background from the work I'd done in college before I got here to have a job like this.
While job searching, Burns found the opening in Swain County and felt it was the perfect fit. After 2 interviews, the Board of Elections offered him the job, and the rest became history.
I think every director's goal is to make their office the best run in the state, so that's mine as well.
Now comfortable in his position, Burns says he wants to focus on procedure and transparency within his office this election. He hopes to engage with voters to maintain and gather trust in election security. Despite the many responsibilities Burns tackles as the director, his favorite part of the job remains what originally drew him to the position, helping people vote.
Making sure that people can vote, it's always rewarding, even if they're voter number 2000, when somebody comes in and they're just able to have a smooth process and they get their I voted sticker.
Stay tuned, as we'll be getting preliminary results from reporter Taylor Buckland.
Throughout the day, we've had reporters stationed at local polling places. Reporters Devin McDaniel and Kalia Atticus share more on what they saw.
Hi, my name is Kalia Atticus, and we're out here on Election Day in Jackson County talking to voters about why they decided to come out and vote today. We wanted to know their thoughts and feelings about this election. How are you feeling about this election?
Yeah, I feel really good about this election. I think it's just a constitutional right that we get to come out and vote and choose who we want to be for the next president of the United States.
Why did you decide to vote?
I think it's important to participate in democracy, so you can say that your vote matters, because if we all just sit on the sidelines, then how do we know that we've made the right choices?
Natasha, we want to ask you a couple questions. So why did you decide to come out today?
Mostly just because I want different changes to be made that are a little bit more applicable to my people and everything that we do around here. I know living in rural North Carolina, a lot of people assume that everyone is voting one way, but I don't want to.
And why is this election important to you?
For me, it's more about just seeing how things are going to change to the better of most of America, especially with it being such a big election and it's very, very close, which is speaking volumes to what is happening in this country.
Why did you decide to come out and vote today?
Because every vote counts, and because we want to see a change. We don't like how the last 4 years were.
And why is this election important to you?
Because there's a lot of things on the line right now that we personally morally believe in, and a lot of those things are being tested right now. So we want to do our best to see if we can make a change about that.
After speaking with pollsters in Jackson County, it is clear that the vote today will help determine the outcome of Jackson County's election. I'm Kalia Atticus, reporting.
Over in Macon County, we had reporters Cody Cressman and Dylan Branscombe. Here's what they saw.
Election day is finally here in Macon County, but many people have already voted. As of yesterday, over 17,000 Macon County residents voted early or by mail. That's roughly 60% of the 28,000 eligible voters in this county. We spoke to some Macon County residents about how the election has gone so far.
Like we've been averaging about 22 people an hour, so whatever that is over 10 hours is 12 hours. About 270 maybe at this particular location.
Well, it's been steady. We've had right at 180 here today, but there's 1,800 in this precinct, and 988 of them voted early. So overall, it's been a real good turnout.
We've had a lot more young voters than I'm used to. Seeing, I think, the repeal of Roe versus Wade has brought a lot of attention to the plight of women in this country and their lack of autonomy over their bodies. And I think that has brought out a number of voters.
I think what's motivating people is they want change. We don't want more of what we've just had for 4 years. We want the country to go back to some semblance of normalcy and patriotism and love of country. And we want to close our borders. We want to encourage people to work and just be proud to be in this country and proud to be Americans. We just care about everything from the unborn to just the sanctity of our country, and everyone should be able to have a fair place to live and to work and to take pride in their lives.
How do you not vote? Then you go and complain about the government? It's your government. If you don't vote for it, how are you going to complain about it?
I'll have the results for Macon County later in the evening.
Throughout the past couple of weeks, Western's Communication Department has been polling students to learn more about how they are thinking during this election. Here to talk about those results is Max Poku-Kankim.
Thanks, Cora. Hi, I'm Max Poku-Kankim. The WCU Communication Department
released an election poll for 2024 where we asked students about the election. Out of all the students that were sent in, over 100 students were responded. 48% of the students that responded were men and 45% were women, with 7% as non-binary. But where do they stand with their political party? Well, of all the students that responded to the poll, 44% of them were independent, while 30% of them were Democrat, 17% of them were Republican, and then 9% of them were some other party, like the Green Party or something like that. Of all of those people, 55% of them had a liberal political ideology, 21% of them had a moderate political ideology, and then 24% of them had a conservative political ideology. After we also sent out a feeling thermometer where we let them rank each presidential candidate from 0 to 100, and Kamala Harris got a 48.6 on average, while Donald Trump only got a 22.4 average. That is less than half of Kamala Harris's, according to WCU students. But what are the issues that they are concerned with? Well, the most important issues at Western are 1, affordable health care, 2, reproductive rights, especially among women. Inflation is 3, 4 is the economy, and then 5 is gun violence. As the election draws to a close, we take a look at what issues students care about. Here's reporters Stuart Butler with more.
The 2024 election will push new ideas, issues, and policies into the White House and local government. As Election Day inches closer, students on WCU campus share what issues are influencing their vote. One hot topic, reproductive rights.
Reproductive rights are very important to me. I am also transgender, and I do not want someone as the president of our country who does not really like that.
A lot of young men probably don't understand what's at stake for young women of the country, and I think a lot of them probably just have the whole, it doesn't really affect me, so like, it's not that big of a deal.
We should just make rights that everybody can agree on and just work to make it where it's equal for each and every person.
Another topic driving students' votes, gun control.
The Second Amendment is of importance to us and we should have it, but I do think that we do need strong limitations to protect especially our schools, but America as a whole.
It's very easy to get guns illegally in this country, and I feel like if we're going to crack down on anything, we would need to crack down on weapon smuggling first.
We definitely do need some gun restrictions, just based off of how much gun violence goes on in our country and how much of it gets ignored. And I think that is a really serious issue, and it does affect my voting.
Guns should be held as they're a danger, but they should be taken in precautions of like who should get background checks and everything.
Other students are just concerned with which candidate will do the most for the economy.
Things are pretty expensive right now, so I'm probably going to end up voting for whoever makes things less expensive, namely gas.
Getting a little bit tired of paying $3.80 for gas every time I need it, so, you know.
A lot is riding on the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. If anything, remember that your vote matters.
No matter what your party affiliation is, you should go vote so that you can help create the future that you want for yourself and for your family and for the generations to come.
As you could tell, students have differing views about politics. But how does this break down by gender? Well, in this data, according to the poll, 47% of women are independent, while 43% of men are independent. And men, as you can see, are a little bit more broken up, with 14% of them being some other party. And then women have a higher party affiliation of Democrat, while men have a higher party affiliation of Republican, as you can see from the graph. But what about their views? Well, according to the poll, women, 56% of them have a liberal ideology, while 23% of them have a moderate ideology, and 21% of them have a conservative ideology, while with men, 50% of them have a liberal ideology, 31% of them have a conservative ideology, and 19% of them have a moderate ideology. So the liberal mindset is still dominant in both, but it's a little bit more dominant in women. With candidate support, women support Kamala Harris 17 points higher than men, while men support Donald Trump 15 points higher than women. And with non-binary is at 68 with Kamala Harris and the lowest of 2.17 with Donald Trump. Now, the most important issues with students at WCU with women and men are vastly different. Women think that reproduction rights are the highest important issue, and then second is affordable health care, third is gun violence, fourth is inflation, and then fifth is economy or racial inequality. While with men, number 1 is economy, number 2 is inflation, number 3 is affordable health care, number 4 is unemployment, and then number 5 is climate change. So they voted for unemployment and climate change, even though they weren't the two in the most important issues for Western students. Back to you at the desk.
We hear the narrative that young women lean more towards Harris and young men towards Trump. But is there any merit to this assumption? Reporter Stuart Butler asked students how they feel about the presidential candidates.
From last month, both young men and young women are becoming more liberal than in the past. On the other hand, it doesn't take a keen eye to see the millions of young men being drawn to Trump. So where is the divide between the Democrat and Republican vote among young men and young women? WCU students explain.
I'm a man, and I voted Saturday for Kamala, so she's very competent. I feel like the media tries to paint her as slow or stupid, but she has degrees, she's a proven attorney, so I feel like she has all the qualifications to be a president.
Obviously, I voted for Trump, and I know some other people have voted for Trump as well who are females. I just think it's more so their personal opinion on things.
I voted both ways, both Republican and Democrat, because as an education major, you got to think more about paying teachers.
Trump, because of he's going to make the economy great again. And, Biden's been in office for, last 4 years? Look at the gas prices. It's skyrocketed.
I do believe women will probably be more likely to vote for Kamala Harris because she wasn't really as involved with Roe v. Wade being overturned and all that. And a lot of young women these days are very protective of their reproductive rights.
The 2024 election will be the first presidential election in which many college students will be able to vote. Although voter education has been a hot topic for months, voter stereotypes still run deep.
I feel like if we really put things into perspective and looked at the qualifications for one candidate and the qualifications for another, we could easily pick who should run this country, but
It seems to be an even mix. We'll know for sure after the election.
Various things impact a voter's choice at the polls. The economy and inflation are just an example of things impacting voters this election season. Reporters Marie Spencer and Parker Jacobs spoke with students on WCU's campus about their opinions on these topics.
The Communication Department survey found that the economy and inflation are important to students when voting.
I think inflation is really important to students currently. Their money's worth less than it was in the past, but our wages haven't gone up. They've kind of stagnated.
Students have mixed opinions on which presidential candidate will best improve the economy.
I think because this is Donald Trump's second term, he's not afraid of doing the hard landing that's necessary. There's no way out of this that's going to be comfortable. So I think intentionally driving it down so we can start rebuilding our economy in a positive way is necessary.
So it's just going to raise prices. Kamala Harris wants to help with housing. She wants to make things more affordable if you have kids. So if you're in college and you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, if you're pregnant and you want to go through and have that child, Kamala Harris is going to be better for you than Trump is, because she's going to open it up so that we can actually buy houses like our grandparents could. And like our parents could, but we currently cannot.
I don't think most people don't have a good understanding of the economy.
Yeah.
And how that all works. I mean, it's really not going to change. I think president to president. I mean, no matter who wins the next election, I really don't think it's going to change all that much. I don't think that Harris or Trump have a magic wand that's going to fix anything.
Students also find local elections important to the economy.
They're important for the local economy. For example, here in Silva, the highway renovation project has shut down a lot of local businesses. They've removed a lot of jobs. There's a lot of opportunities that have been lost in the area. There is going to be economic improvement, but I'm not sure if Silva is going to have enough infrastructure by the end of it to recover.
Yeah.
They'll be able to employ the road crews, but where's that money going?
Most students feel that the economy is better now than it was 4 years ago in the last election.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, the economy is is better by the numbers today, but it certainly doesn't feel like that. I know I'm not the only one who has that opinion, who believes the same thing. I think most people would say that.
Issues of inflation and unemployment are especially important to young voters who are looking ahead to future careers and livelihoods. Both parties have addressed these issues, and it is clear that students have varying opinions on the subject.
Parental rights for transgender people in sports and many other issues that tough LGBTQIA+ rights have been discussed during this election cycle. Western Carolina students shared their opinions on the upcoming election and how it impacts the LGBTQIA+ community. Reporters Haley Stanley and Hannah Butler have more.
Hi there, Catamounts. We are out here today interviewing voters on the upcoming election and its impact on LGBTQ+ rights and the stripping away that could happen to communities if certain candidates are elected.
A volunteer for the Democratic Party has shown up here in front of Western's UC building to help educate and persuade voters to vote blue.
So in this election, I'll be voting for Harris Walls. I, in particularly as a Black queer person, am incredibly concerned about how to move forward in politics when it comes to protecting queer individuals within America, especially in an area such as Jackson County. I grew up in a conservative town, so I know exactly what it's like to be discriminated against for being queer and also for being Black. In this area, when you combine the two together and you go out into the public, you often find yourself scared of how people will treat you. I have talked to many people on campus, and they believe that if, in the case that Donald Trump got elected, that our lives would be at stake. Gay marriage was legalized very recently. I remember sitting in front of the TV and seeing that happen, and I felt so represented, so proud of like how far we had come. And I can't say that the same feeling has come across me in the past 5 years.
So to me, political discourse has always been about progressing the rights and the values of the voters and enabling the community to take action and to feel safe. And right now, for the LGBTQ community, those rights feel under attack, especially when we bring to question whether or not your rights should vary by state, which has been a very large part of the discussion. I think that no matter how marginalized your population is within a state, that your rights should be equal wherever you are in the United States.
This election season is a lot going on. I constantly am walking on campus and seeing different advertisements and campaigns for political positions and things like that. And it's really an important time for my peers and myself to get out and vote. And as a Gen Z voter, I think it's really important that we know and are educated about what's going on in North Carolina locally, but also, for our country. So I'm excited to see all of the advocacy that people are going and doing this upcoming election and this season. So it's very exciting.
We've heard from the students. Now let's go to Hannah and Hallie for more information on how the LGBTQIA+ community could be affected based on who is elected.
Thank you so much, Mara. I'm here with Hallie Stanley to discuss more on the LGBTQ+ rights. So Hallie, you went to the Pride recently here in Silva, and can you tell me how political that event was?
Well, Hannah, I would not say it was super political at surface level. It was mainly just a celebration for the people of Silva to come together and express how they feel about Pride, and it was very welcoming and fun. There were undertones of politics because maybe some people don't know this, but the town of Silva had voted against having a parade instead of it. I know it was a festival and now it's a parade, and there was maybe some controversy there, but mostly just fun and a celebration.
Yeah, exactly how Pride should be.
Yeah.
In February, a law in Tennessee was signed that allows public officials in state to refuse same-sex marriage laws.
Yeah.
Do you see similar things like that happening if certain candidates were elected?
I mean, yeah, that's definitely a trendsetter. I feel like because it's happening in Tennessee, it gives more incentive for it to happen in other places, and it's just, we don't want that happening because this is same-sex marriage. I feel like we're backpedaling to a time where, you know, not everybody was equal and didn't have the same rights and freedom to marry whom you want to consensually. But we are definitely backpedaling to a time where
I agree.
Yeah.
So back to on campus, how did campus students that were part of the LGBTQ plus community, what did they have to say? How do they feel about, you know, certain policies potentially like threatening to strip their protection from discrimination?
I feel like they felt vulnerable in this election. Like they are being villainized for just wanting equality, you know, a say, a voice in this country, and right now they're being ridiculed for reasons that are not appropriate in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that seems like that's the main thing that you noticed when interviewing with that. Some voters expressed that they don't believe a Trump presidency would be any threat to the LGBTQ plus community. What do you say to that feeling? What do you think?
Well, let's be real. Like, we have friends, family members that are a part of that community, and when we vote, we have to take into consideration their say, and we're not just voting within our own self-interest, we're voting within our neighbors' interests to make sure that we are, you know, contributing to the welfare and equal rights of everybody. And if opposing voters don't see that, then they need to wake up, because it just seems like such a closed-minded thing to disregard an entire community of people like that. Yeah, this is insane. It's insane.
Thank you, Hallie. Back to you, Mara.
As a reminder, we are also simulcasting on 95.3 WCU Dillsboro. And now we have Parker Jacobs with more on the economy.
Here we are in Sylva, North Carolina, specifically Jackson County, at the Board of Elections. Outside are two tents representing the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. We talked to both parties, and here's what both sides had to say.
Cody Lewis, and I'm running for Jackson County Commissioner, District 3. So the primary responsibility of the Board of Commissioners is to manage the county's budget. So we have a $100 million county budget right now. Your biggest asset under that would be the school system. So the majority of the funding for the school system comes from the county in the form of infrastructure. What we can help with is to try to bring down the continuously rising housing costs. So that's something that we can tackle. So the way we could tackle that, I mean, there's a few different ways. We can try to spur development, but those are hard with tax incentives and tax breaks. That's where the tax abatements come in, that if you're trying to encourage them to do a development and to build a higher concentration housing apartment complex, the trade-off for giving them, say, 3 years of no property taxes is they have to have a certain percentage of that development for lower income or assisted housing.
Jenny Lynn Hooper. I'm running for county commissioner. That's a good point with what it's done with the tourism. They're not able to travel as freely. They can still get here. But the other problem with the tourism is, again, the road took out over 40 businesses. And one of the main things, we lost the train in Dillsboro, it might have been 10 years ago now, and it went to Bryson City. Bryson City looks like a metropolis now to what it used to look like. We do need more, that's something we're going to look into, and we do need more affordable housing. The housing around, it's not just here, it's everywhere, is so outrageous. It doesn't matter if you live in a trailer. I mean, it's very expensive. Yes, I think if we can get Trump in there, I think he can get the economy back where it should be.
Thank you, Parker.
As of November 1st, $10.5 billion have been spent on campaign ads in the 2024 election cycle. Republicans have outspent the Democrats by about $1 billion. This is record-breaking levels of spending.
Across the state, lines can be seen forming out the door.
Here in Haywood County, it is quiet. Many voters casted their ballots during early voting or through absentee ballots. 2,800 Haywood residents casted their votes during early voting. We caught up with some voters exiting the polls today to get their perspective on healthcare. Will Veronin, a Waynesville resident, believes that healthcare is very important this election.
The role of government to protect people, and they protect us from criminals, they protect us from enemy armies and all that. I think it's good for them to protect us from disease as well.
In Maggie Valley, the polling areas seemed much more lively. Allie Jo Fisher and Sarah Hunley fulfilled their civic duty this year because they believe it is important. We will be back in Haywood later tonight with preliminary results. I'm Mackenzie Atkinson reporting from Haywood County. Back to you in the studio.
My mistake. We just heard from Mackenzie Atkinson on affordable health care. And now Max will be sharing a little bit more of those survey results from WCU students.
Thanks, Cora. So we've heard a lot about issues with students, but where do they get a lot of their news from? Well, the most used traditional news outlets are ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, and then CNN. All of them are above 35 people. But what about social media? Well, Snapchat and YouTube are only used by 9 people for news about the election, while Facebook is used by 60 people, Twitter/X is used by 47 people, and TikTok is used by 41 people. Now, what problems have students been paying attention to? Well, over half of the people polled are not at all or not very concerned with immigration. Still 46% are concerned, but they are not as concerned as a lot of other issues. What about abortion? Well, 70% of people have a opinion about abortion where it should be legal in all or most cases. 13% of people are undecided, and then 17% think that it should be illegal in all or most cases. This split by gender has women seeing about 74% thinking that it should be legal in all or most cases. 8% of them are undecided, and then 18% of them think that it should be illegal, while for men, only 62% of them think it should be legal in all or most cases. 19% are undecided, and also 19% think it should be illegal in all or most cases. And then also, a quick little thing, 100% of non-binary respondents believed abortion should be legal for all or most cases. Now, with that, we go to the ideologies, where with ideology, 92% of liberals think that it should be legal in all or most cases. 76% think that it should be legal in all or most cases for moderates, but then for conservatives, only 14% think that it should be legal in all or most cases, with over 60% thinking that it should be illegal for all or most cases. Well, that's it for me, and now back to Mara.
As people finish casting their votes for this election, some want to be sure they're voting for the right candidate. Reporter Max Pokukankum and Julie Vanderhoff went out to campus to gather more information on how people get information.
Spent their day riding rides and getting advised.
How much you can spend?
Others had more pressing matters to consider. The 2024 presidential election. As soon as early voting started on campus, students flocked to the polls. Although most people already know who they'll vote for, some people still are trying to figure out information on candidates. According to a survey done by the Communication Department, most students at WCU get their information about the election from Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Sophomore Morgan LaRose is an example of a student who gets most of her information on TikTok.
I feel like because I have a lot of friends who repost it, and it's just on my Explore page. Once it comes on, I feel like it's important that I listen to the full video because it's educational and I should be updated with what's going on in the election.
Although LaRose is not very active in politics, others on campus are. Patrick McGuire, a volunteer for the Jackson County Democratic Party, obtains most of his information from television. Despite this, he is not entirely satisfied.
I do have some issues with our ABC, our local ABC station.
Yeah.
I know that it's owned by Sinclair, and I know that they are a Republican-leaning group.
According to a report by the Pew Research Center, 70% of people over the age of 50 receive most of their political news from cable television. Only 12% get most of their information from social media. Networks appealing to their audience is essential, and viewers like McGuire want their concerns to be heard. Although different people have different ways of learning about the election, one thing is for certain: all of them are important.
Yes, that's for certain. All voices matter. It also matters what information you're getting. Thank you, Max and Julian.
Social media can sway the opinions of some users through an influx of celebrity endorsements.
And that's how I went into this project.
Some people love her, some people hate her. However, there's no denying Taylor Swift, as well as other celebrities' impact on culture and even elections.
The 2024 election is in full swing, and we're out here today at the UC Center for Western Carolina University, surveying students getting their opinions on celebrity endorsements.
So as far as just celebrity endorsements go, I don't really think that they sway my opinion very much, because it's, to me, like, a celebrity is just another person.
I think it's definitely a good route to go because a lot of people are a fan of Taylor Swift. So I feel like having Taylor Swift's endorsement will really push people to vote for Kamala Harris.
Many other celebrities, such as Beyonce, Bad Bunny, Mumford & Sons, have also endorsed Harris, bolstering her support as the election draws near.
I feel like there's been a good mix of them. Definitely been seeing a lot from both sides.
Is there any celebrity endorsement that has swayed your vote?
I am a big Beyonce fan, so I definitely would say Kamala Harris. She definitely, I would say I was already planning on voting for her, but like that kind of sealed the deal.
However, some students on campus aren't as thrilled about the prospect of a celebrity endorsing a particular candidate.
I think celebrities should just do their jobs. We don't need their opinions.
Today, we had the opportunity to speak with several students about their opinions on celebrity endorsements this 2024 election. And now we turn the decision up to you and your thoughts on celebrity endorsements. I'm Callie Atticus, and we're here at Western Carolina University.
Endorsements can be a touchy subject for celebrities. Fans get mad if you endorse a candidate and if you don't. Voters should always do their own research before making a decision.
With quick access to different types of media and information, it's easy to get lost in what we see on the internet, including misinformation. Recently, we've seen a lot of misinformation surrounding voter security. Reporter Deanna Sipe has more on the impact of voting misinformation during voting.
Political misinformation has always been around, and with a continuous election cycle, it spreads quickly and more viciously. The misinformation of the 2020 election created mistrust in voting security, leaving many stuck questioning the information given to them.
We have a tendency to kind of believe those things that kind of support the narrative we already want to be true. And so this is not just in kind of social media, but in the mainstream media as well. We discount those things that we don't want to believe, or those things that go against kind of our political preferences or our personal preferences.
This year's election has centered mainly around voting security, with multiple false claims of illegal immigrants voting in the election.
There is a group here in North Carolina that has actually said on the record in the last few days that anybody who is a recent registrant with a Hispanic, quote, Hispanic sounding name is somebody who should be looked at as being perhaps suspicious.
These suspicions are extremely harmful to those involved.
Look, I think it's hard. It's particularly hard, I think, for folks who may be undocumented, who have no plans to vote, to see people that are kind of, throwing accusations at them, or people who are here legally who may be accused of not being legal.
Maria Eileen Rojo Segura, a Hispanic resident in Western North Carolina, says when she voted, she felt like an oddball.
And when I walked in to vote yesterday, I felt like an oddball. I felt like, what is she doing here?
Segura also provided insight on the impact of false claims about illegal immigrants voting.
People who came here legally, who are eligible to vote, they're not taking that chance to vote solely because they don't want to dip their toes into politics, and they don't want to, because they feel like their voice will not be heard.
Segura says many are protesting to vote and advises all who are legal to go vote for not only themselves, but also those around them.
For people who are legal, who have the rights to vote, please go vote. Your voices will be heard. I voted because I voted for on behalf of my parents, on behalf of anyone in my family or anyone around me who cannot speak up, who cannot vote. My vote is for them. My vote will count for all of them.
As we've seen, misinformation can be harmful for those affected. With more on misinformation and its impact, here's Hannah Butler and Deanna Sipe.
Thank you, Mara. I'm back here and I'm with Deanna Sipe. Deanna, can you tell me how common is misinformation in elections?
So misinformation is very common, but not just like in elections, it's just common all throughout.
Just in general?
Yeah.
Where is misinformation being spread?
So it can be spread either through like social media like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any social media, but it's also commonly spread like word of mouth. Maybe people get information wrong, but it's spread both ways really.
And what are the impacts of this misinformation?
So as we've seen in the package that just went on, sometimes it can be very harmful. With the girl that I interviewed, Maria, people can look at you differently, especially with like the misinformation about illegal immigrants voting. People looked at her differently. They like side-eyed her, and sometimes it can cause people not to vote as well, which they probably should, but it can cause them not to. Yeah.
What are some things that voters can do to avoid misinformation?
So there are multiple ways to avoid misinformation. You could go fact check yourself. There are multiple like sources that you could use. There's just multiple sources you can go look at. If you look at Fox News, go look at like CNN. Just use different sources to fact check yourself.
Mm-hmm. And in the video we just watched, one of your interviewees said that people follow the narrative they want to hear. How is that with TikTok and X? That there's a lot of that going around where people they're trapped in the same bubble of information and the same bias. Is there anything they can do to get out of that?
Yeah, so what we call that is like echo chambers. You see what you see on your social media is what you choose to see. So if you're looking at certain things, that's what's going to keep popping up on your algorithm. So to change that, maybe just look at different sources. Like I mentioned before, that might help you see different algorithms, see other people's views, other people's opinions, and everything.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Deanna. Back to you, Mara.
Thank you, Hannah. We would like to take a brief moment to say preliminary results are showing that Josh Stein is projected to win the governor's race.
Misinformation is prominent during election season. Some of the misinformation lately revolves around voting security. With more on voting security, reporters Mackenzie Atkinson and Cody Cressman.
Security has weighed heavily on the public's mind in recent elections. Claims of voter fraud and election meddling questions the integrity of the U.S. election system. Dr. Chris Cooper, professor of political science and public affairs, puts these worries to bed.
And you do see kind of one-offs or two-offs, but it's not really systematic voter fraud. What you tend to see is, somebody who might have forgotten that they voted ahead of time, right? Somebody who has dementia. But in terms of really widespread systematic voter fraud, the kind that could change an election, it's a rounding error from zero.
In recent elections, some are claiming that election machines have been hacked. The setup of the machines prevents the machines from being tampered with.
Once you're given your ballot, you then take it to a ballot marking device. That ballot marking device is not connected to the internet in any way. And then you go and actually cast that ballot, and the same thing is true there. That machine is also not connected to the internet, has no way to be connected to the internet. The way those ballots are ultimately counted is that they essentially have a very fancy jump drive and or flash drive, and they take that back to the County Board of Elections, and that's when they upload it to the state system. Really, there's no way at all to hack it. And then to make things even more complicated, we got 100 counties in the state of North Carolina. They use 3 different kinds of voting machines. So if you wanted to hack even in North Carolina, you'd have to learn how to hack 3 different kinds of voting machines Oh, and by the way, the other 49 states do it a completely different way.
The official election process includes input from both sides of the aisle. At each polling location, there is a partisan judge from both the Republican and Democratic parties that act as an overseer of the process to ensure there is no partisanship.
Whenever you vote by curbside, so you would show up obviously at the curbside, and then there'd be a greeter who would say, why are you here? You'd say, I want to vote curbside. They'd then send a bipartisan team out to your car. And that bipartisan team of a Democrat and a Republican watches you fill it out. Now, not the details. There's actually a privacy screen they put over it. The bipartisan team then takes it, puts it in an envelope, walks it to the Board of Election, to the polling site together. So again, it'd be very difficult, if not impossible, to be able to cheat. And if you were going to cheat, you'd somehow have to have a Democrat and a Republican in on the deal.
Stuffing the ballot boxes is also a concern for voters.
Election workers cannot just add extra ballots to the machine, so there are counts every day, multiple times a day, by bipartisan teams with multiple eyes that make sure that the number of ballots cast equals the number of ballots that are counted at the end of the day.
There are many fail-safes in place to ensure that the voting process is secure. If any discrepancies are found, they are investigated and resolved by the County Board of Elections, with the aid of the State Board of Elections. For more information, contact your local Board of Elections.
We are going to turn now to Stuart over in Jackson County, and he is going to be sharing some of the preliminary results from the Board of Elections over there. Stuart?
Hey, Cora. So I'm out here. We do not have any preliminary results just yet. As I understand, they made a change with the counting of early votes and absentee votes. But in front of me, we have a whole line of cars. I've heard Little Canada and Cullowhee are rolling in. But it'll still just be a few minutes before those are counted.
Well, we will be looking forward to hearing those results from you soon, Stuart.
All right. Thank you, Cora.
Cora, I can't help but feel a little bit excited as we get closer and closer to getting results.
Yes, and I know that Stuart has been working some with the AP over there in Jackson County, so I'm sure he's super excited, a little anxious maybe, to get those results.
Absolutely, and especially in the county that we live in. I know these results are kind of a little bit more personal, you know?
They are, and we're definitely in an interesting place as college students living in Jackson County, because these results will affect us for the time that we are here and the time that we may choose to stay after we graduate.
Yeah, and we also have Mackenzie with preliminary results in Haywood County. Mackenzie?
Hi, Mara. So right now we are reporting 3.5% of our votes right now. I'm under the assumption that these are all absentee ballots, with Democrats currently leading down the ballot. Right now they're saying that Kamala is leading by 500 votes. And then we're also looking, again, as you mentioned, Josh Stein leading by 600 votes. Now this is only about 1,700 votes out of the projected 47,000. So these are very, very early and very misleading as of right now, but low percentage, but we are starting to get some results here in Haywood.
It's very exciting to hear. So, I mean, I still can't get over the fact that there's such a high voter turnout in Haywood County despite Hurricane Helene.
I know, and it's been really encouraging to see voters turning up, like we said earlier, at those early voting places, and we are certainly excited to see those percentages rise of votes that have been counted. We are going to go next to Cody Cressman in Macon County. Cody, how are things over there? Have you got any results for us?
Yeah, I do. We've just got in the early and absentee votes, which is about 58% of the votes here. So currently we have Trump leading at 67%. And then for the governor race, we have Robinson at 43%. As for local races, we have, for the school board, we have Breedlove at 34% and right behind him at 43%.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cody. And we will be looking forward to hearing more of those preliminary results as votes are counted. And we will be talking a little bit more later on in the show about that Board of Education race. So we will certainly be hearing more about that race.
Yeah, Yeah, and we also have Taylor Buckland in Swain County. Taylor, do you have some results for us?
Yes, I have all of the results for the election in Swain County. Donald Trump has won the presidential election by 61.18%. And for North Carolina governor, Mark Robinson has won by 50.41%. There was a local referendum in Swain County for unfortified wine on premises, and that has passed at 60.39%.
That's awesome. That's definitely going to make a big impact on Swain County businesses, which we will be learning about later. Do you know if this was off-premise or on-premise?
This is on-premise.
Great. Thank you, Taylor.
On-premises only, yes.
And I'm excited to learn a little more later tonight about that referendum and what it passing will mean for Swain County. It is really interesting to see how close these races are coming at both the national level over there in Swain County, as well as at the local level with that referendum.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I did get to talk to some business owners, as we'll be seeing later, about this alcohol referendum and how big of an impact it can have on this community. So we're very excited for that.
As a reminder, all Board of Election meetings by law are open to the public, even on canvass day when votes are counted.
And going back to the topic of misinformation on voting security has led many to mistrust the voting process. This year, there's a voting referendum that, if voted for, will affect who gets to vote in the future North Carolina elections. With more on the story, reporter Cody Cressman.
On the ballot this year is a referendum to amend the writing of the North Carolina state constitution, removing the word naturalized from the section entitling the right to vote. Dr. Chris Cooper from Western North Carolina University explained this in more detail.
So there's a referendum, it's one we talked about a second ago actually, saying that non-U.S. citizens should not have the right to vote, or that only U.S. citizens should have the right to vote. That's already roughly in our state constitution, right? So there's no way would be illegal to vote as a non-U.S. citizen now. And so this would try to shore that up.
Karen Smith, a member of the Democrat Party in Macon County, shared her opinions on the referendum.
Well, it's not necessary. It's redundant. And the way it's written, it seems to disenfranchise naturalized Americans. And it seems to state that you can only vote if you're 18, which is not terribly clear, and it's totally irrelevant.
But Republican voters disagree.
I know that if the amendment becomes a part of the state constitution, that it becomes a real uphill struggle for people who are not United States citizens to be able to vote in the state.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with that.
You should show your ID. You should be a legal citizen of the United States in order to vote.
That's the whole point. Why would an outsider be voting for what affects us?
At this time, there are no laws permitting non-U.S. citizens or citizens under the age of 18 to vote. Whether or not the referendum will affect voting rights or even pass, we'll have to wait for the results of the election. Reporting for WeTV, I'm Cody Cressman.
I'll be back with you later with an update on this race. From WeTV, I'm Cody Cressman.
North Carolina is among 8 states considering constitutional amendments regarding non-citizens voting this year. Now, we had Swanik earlier at the University Center covering an election watch party. It is wrapping up right now, so we're going to go back to Swanik. Hi, Swanik.
Hi, I'm here with the Vice President of the Student Democracy Coalition and one of the organizers of the event. Do you want to introduce yourself and talk about the event?
Hey, I'm Sam Ogburn. I am president of the Student Democracy Coalition. I've been in this for 2 years now, and we're really excited to have run this event.
Hi, I'm Savannah McLaughlin. I joined the club last year, and I am the vice president.
How did y'all start planning this event?
So we started quite a long time ago because running this sort of thing and on this sort of scale before we haven't done. So we started with our director at the Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning, Dr. Cruz Paul. And then we worked our way up through the UC to ask the appropriate channels. That was probably a couple months ago. The storm sort of threw us for a loop, but we were able to rally and get the catering and the rights with the coverage. It's pretty good.
Awesome. How do y'all feel about how the event's gone so far?
We are very pleased. We put out some stuff on Instagram or Snapchat. We put out some stuff on Instagram. We made an A-frame sign, and then all you can do is hope for the best. And we are very pleased. I think we've had over 105 folks come. This is a really good turnout for us, and everyone has seemed to enjoy the night.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking with us. Awesome. All right, back to you.
Well, thank you, Swanik. Political campaigns are essential to helping voters understand what candidates are running for. Weeks before the election, reporter Deanna Sipe talked with political science and public affairs professor Dr. Chris Cooper on the differences between presidential and local campaign strategies.
Political campaigns are most important when running for office, and in 2024, they're crucial.
The Democrats are spending more money on ads, the Republicans are spending more money on mailers, and they're both running different kinds of rallies. And so the strategies have actually been pretty different.
Trump's campaign is focused more on running everything from the top down, while Harris is focusing more on local community advocates.
We think about Harris for a second. She has flooded the airwaves. She has really kind of done a very traditional sort of campaign, whereas what Donald Trump has done is big rallies and mailers.
While presidential candidates are focusing on airways and rallies, it's a different story for local candidates.
So, I mean, for these local politicians, oftentimes it's just name recognition. Getting signs up, getting name recognition up is kind of the key to winning an election.
Brandon Teague, deputy campaign advisor for Adam Tabrige, says speaking to locals and government officials in the area is a good way to focus on the issues of the community a candidate is running in.
Speaking with locals, speaking with community leaders, elected officials, both Republicans and Democrats, to see what are the issues of Western North Carolina and how can we tackle those issues.
Dr. Cooper says that voting in local elections is extremely important because it can break ties that would otherwise be decided through a coin toss. In Cullowhee, I'm Deanna Sipe.
As of November 1st, $10.5 billion have been spent on campaign ads in the 2024 election cycle. Republicans have outspent the Democrats by about $1 billion. This is record-speaking levels of spending.
It's certainly an astounding number to see there. Our reporter Cody Cressman, as you heard from him earlier, has been covering the school board race in Macon County, so he has a story on that now.
Absentee voting is passed, and now Macon County is counting the votes for this year's election. The most competitive local race this year is for the District 4 seat on the Board of Education. 3 candidates, Jim Breedlove, Danny Reitmeyer, and John DeVille, are on the ballot. Breedlove is the current head of the board, with 16 years of experience. Reitmeyer is a veteran and school bus driver for Macon County, and DeVille is a teacher of 30 years, with a history of political advocacy. To get an idea of what challenges these candidates will face on the board, I spoke to some Macon County voters about what issues they thought were important for Macon County schools.
I think the biggest thing is to convince the people that the expansion of the facilities is important. I have a military background. Your facility lets you work well or not. So if you don't have the tools in the facility that makes it a good environment for the youth to learn, they're going to be distracted easily. And I think that's pretty important.
First of all, we need improvement in our buildings. The upkeep, the dollars spent on capital improvements have not been there. And we are getting a new high school. Unfortunately, it's going to be built on the same location, which is very constricted and will not allow the campus to be as expansive as it might need to be, but at least we're getting a new school.
Well, obviously we're facing high poverty levels. We have so many kids, believe it or not, we have kids that are living in a vehicle or are homeless and coming to school. Luckily we do provide free breakfast and lunch for most kiddos because it's a Title I type of school situation, and so we're facing a lot of family issues, a lot of kids that have one or both parents in jail or prison. So there's just a lot of things where we really care about these kiddos and their hearts.
I'll be back with you later with an update on this race. From WeTV, I'm Cody Cressman.
All three candidates have shown their support for the school board's decision to rebuild Franklin High School, which seems to be an important issue for voters in Macon County.
North Carolina House District 119 is on the ballot this year. Incumbent Mike Clampett is running for re-election. While in office, he voted in favor of the current abortion legislation, as well as an overturn of Governor Roy Cooper's veto on the legislation. His competitor, Mark Burrows, worked as an economic planner for Transylvania County for almost 30 years and is looking to create a strong economic development for working families in Western North Carolina. With more on this race, here's Mackenzie Atkinson.
North Carolina House District 119 has been identified as a battleground district this election. In 2022, it was a tight race, with incumbent Mike Clampett winning the race only by 2,800 votes against Al Platt. This year, he's running against Mark Burrows from Transylvania County. I was able to sit down with both Burrows and Clampett to understand why they are running and what they plan to do if they win the seat.
I want to continue my public service to the constituents and people of the area. And the one thing I want everybody to know, you don't have to call Raleigh to talk to me. Call me on my cell phone, 828-736-6222. In light of this new disaster we had with Hurricane Helene, priorities have changed. Myself and fellow legislators and my colleagues will be working to ensure we get our infrastructure back in to the western counties, northwestern counties that were devastated.
Burrows has focused on expanding women's reproductive rights throughout his campaign. He views breaking the supermajority in the General Assembly as a way to accomplish these goals.
I'm running for North Carolina House Seat 119 for a variety of reasons. Probably the biggest one is supporting a woman's right to privacy and reproductive freedom. That is something that I feel very strongly about, given my wife's history and some things that we've had as a family. I think a woman should have that right. I think the big thing that Adam Terberge and I are trying to do is to help break the supermajority in either the House or the Senate. That way, when Josh Stein becomes governor, he can actually be an effective governor without having Republican supermajorities take away from or impose their will on him.
We do not know how this race will turn out just yet. It may be later in the week before we get official election results. Reporting from Silva, I'm Mackenzie Atkinson. Back to you in the studio.
We have heard over and over that North Carolina is a battleground state. That is true for the presidential race, but we are seeing this idea play out at the congressional and local level as well.
Two on the Jackson County Commissioners Board are up for election. With the incumbents choosing not to run for re-election, Jackson County can expect two new faces on the board. Democrat Cody Lewis and Republican Jenny Lynn Hooper are running for the seat in District 4. District 3. And Democrat Sally Jennings Hudson and Republican Michael Jennings are running for that seat in District 4. The Jackson County Commissioners Board is currently controlled by a 4-to-1 Republican majority. This election could change things. Jackson County cast their ballot for 2 county commissioner seats this year. The County Commissioners Board is involved in budgeting, policy making, and various administrative duties.
The primary responsibility of the Board of Commissioners is to manage the county's budget. The county's budget runs in the ballpark of $100 million.
Cody Lewis is running for the open seat in District 3. With ties to the public school system and an upbringing in Jackson County, Lewis is running with a few things in mind.
Education funding is desperately needed. We have a lot of structures that are very old. Most of the structures are 50 plus years old. One of my main priorities is to steer away from those kind of issues that don't help anyone that live here and actually attack the things that we can do to improve people's lives and try to impact things like affordable housing. And not affordable housing in the sense of HUD housing or Section 8 housing, trying to bring the cost down of just a regular starter home or an apartment.
Lewis's campaign focuses on public education funding, increasing county worker wages, and increasing housing opportunities in Jackson County. Lewis plans to use the county's current tax bundle to do this. Michael Jennings is running for the seat in District 4. Jennings is hoping to bring more oversight to the county's budget.
The the biggest one I think is making sure that somebody's holding people accountable for the money that they've received instead of just giving them a blanket amount. We need to know what the money's going for, and then making sure that that money got used for those projects and not for something else.
Jennings is a Jackson County native. If elected, he plans to hold county organizations and officials accountable for how they spend tax dollars.
I don't feel like the money's been spent wisely for the county. I think a lot of times things have been approved that benefited just a few people in the county instead of, if I was going to spend county money, I'd want it to benefit as many people as possible, not just a select few here or there.
Sally Jennings Hudson is the opposing candidate for District 4. Jennings Hudson believes her background as CEO of her family's commercial trout business has prepared her for the responsibility of county commissioner. Her top priorities include improvement of public schools.
All the public schools need work, be it the south or the northern end of Jackson County. So that would really, certainly for the first 2 years, that's what I hope the commission board works on the most.
The Jackson County Commission Board consists of 5 members who are elected by and serve the entire county for staggered 4-year terms. We did reach out to District 3 Commissioner candidate Jenny Lynn Hooper, but she never responded to our inquiries. Hooper's eligibility to run in the District 3 Commissioner race was called into question in July of 2024 when it was revealed that despite voting in District 3 for 30 years, her address was technically in District 1. Nevertheless, Hooper's name appeared on the ballot. If she wins the seat, an official challenge could be filed with the Jackson County Board of Elections.
This election, Swain County citizens had the opportunity to vote whether to allow the sale of beer and wine in businesses. I spoke with 2 business owners in Swain County to learn more.
It's been an ongoing issue for a lot of business owners that are outside city limits.
For many business owners in Swain County, like Nicole Rogers, selling alcohol has been an unreachable desire.
Like every third person that comes in the door asks us, "Do you sell beer?" And we say, "No, it's a dry county." And this little business supports 4 families.
But change could be coming. Currently, the only businesses in the county that are allowed to sell alcohol are resorts and those within city limits in Bryson City. But a new alcohol referendum was proposed after Rogers, the owner of Nantahala General Store, addressed the Swain County Board of Commissioners.
I didn't want to be the one to do it, but I felt like I had to.
But it didn't end there. 1 month later, Rogers was joined by several business owners like Nate Darnell, co-owner of Darnell Farms.
And I have a business that could benefit from on-premise sales. Off-premise sales may not be beneficial to some ways, but I could sell wines that we make here on the farm. I call this farm OG agritourism, okay? We started before anybody else did. And it really was out of necessity because farming ain't always the most lucrative business to be in.
Swain County businesses aren't the only one that could benefit from this referendum.
And that's also missed tax dollars for Swain County. Those tax dollars are very needed within the fire department, the police department. I know that they've all been needing help.
Business owners ask voters to consider the benefits of the referendum and trust alcohol sales will be handled responsibly.
And if they vote in favor of letting us have on-premise sales and letting certain places around here have off-premise sales, then I'm going to applaud their trust in us to do it in a responsible manner.
As we talked to Taylor Buckland earlier, we learned that both on-premise sales for beer and wine have been passed in Swain County. We now have Cody Cressman with the preliminary results in Macon County. Cody?
Hi. So we've got about 2,000 more results since last time we spoke. For the education race, Jim Breedlove is still leading at 43%, with Danny Reitmeyer behind him at 34%, and then John DeVille in third at 21%.
Great. Thank you, Cody. So we're getting closer to finding out what the local election race is going to look like. Is that super exciting for me at least.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear. So Breedlove is the preliminary winner for that Board of Education race that we discussed a little bit earlier. So we'll see how that continues to play out and what that looks like for Macon County. Next we'll be going to Stuart. He's over in Jackson County. Stuart, what results have you got for us over there?
Hey, Cora. So we've just got the preliminary results right now. But it is starting to show a little bit of what we're going to see later tonight. In the presidential election, Kamala Harris is edging out Trump by about 100 votes. Granted, there's only 840 votes in, so you can't base too much off of that, and that's 840 of about 30,000 registered voters here in Jackson County. But Kamala does have the edge, and in the U.S. House, District 11, Caleb Rudrow is about 100 votes ahead of his opponent, Chuck Edwards. And we're just waiting on the rest of the precincts. Like I told you earlier, we saw a whole bunch of cars trickling through here, but it does take time for them to count the votes, so it may still be a little while.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It is really, again, exciting to see those results coming in, be it slowly. We are super excited to see those.
So it is now, the AP has called Josh Stein as the governor victor for North Carolina. We also had excuse me, I'm so sorry. So to review the preliminary election results for different counties, in Swain, Donald Trump was leading and Mark Robinson was leading. In Macon, we had Donald Trump leading and Mark Robinson leading. In Jackson County, as we just learned,
Trump was leading in Jackson County by about 500 votes, and Josh Stein was leading in Jackson County for that governor race.
I believe it was Kamala was winning by just 100 votes in Jackson County.
That's right, yeah. Excuse me.
But we will not know the final results until next week.
Thank you so much for joining us during our live coverage of election night. I'm Cora Haste.
And I'm Mara St. Marie. Have a good night.